Welcome to Water Talk's coverage from ACE17, broadcasting live from Philadelphia. ACE, uniting the world of water. Water Talk is made possible by WaterOnline.com, showcasing today's water industry leaders and innovators. And now, here is your host, Todd Schnick.
All right, good morning and welcome back to Water Talk. I am your host, Todd Schnick, joined by my friend and colleague, Travis Kennedy. Travis, it's you, me, and Elvis.
I got to tell you,
as we record this conversation.
It's like we're at a rock concert in 1965.
Well, those are the groupies in front of the booth here for you, so that's what that's all about. One of my favorite conversations at every show is our chat with Badger Meters.
Without a doubt.
I always enjoy these conversations. Let's say hello to our guest. Her name is Kristie Anderson, the marketing manager with Badger Meter. Kristie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's good to see you and always good to see you. So, Kristie, our audience is obviously familiar with Badger Meter, but take a quick second, tell us a bit about what you guys are up to.
Sure. So Badger Meter's been around for a very long time. Started with meters in the early 1900s, and of course we're still doing that. Where the manufacturer says, choice matters. So we've got that full metering line. Always looking to expand on that. And we've got the AMI system, bringing to the market a managed solution, which helps utilities focus on what they do best, and Badger Meter managing that infrastructure system. And of course, we've got our endpoints, the radios. The way we communicate the data is kind of a big deal here, and we're talking a lot about that this year.
Well, that's where I want to go next. This new cellular endpoint featured here at the ACE17. Get into it. Tell us all about it.
Sure, yeah. We've got our Orion Cellular LTE endpoint that we're showing this year. This is the next, this is the evolution in cellular endpoint technology. We introduced the original Orion Cellular endpoint in 2014 now, and this is the next thing. And just like its predecessor, it's operating on the cellular network. So utilities can utilize that infrastructure, and they don't have to put up their own proprietary infrastructure, which is a huge benefit to utilities who maybe that isn't their expertise, and that allows them to focus on what they do best. So it's communicating on that cellular network. It's also got the advanced AES-256 advanced encryption. Just like the predecessor, but what's different about the LTE endpoint is it communicates on the long-term evolution network. So that's the network that everyone's talking about, the next thing with all that longevity. And the same endpoint does also communicate on the 3G network. For communities that, if they haven't built out their LTE network, they can communicate on the 3G network as well. And as an evolution in technology, of course, it does have some additional benefits. There's a larger battery for a longer field life, 15-minute data. It supports our new functionality, like, for example, our shutoff valve that we've introduced. It's got a few bells and whistles, extra bells and whistles, just as an evolution in technology.
Outstanding.
I mean, there's no secret that Badger Meter is a leader in the marketplace, but I want to talk a little bit about something that's happened recently. Mm-hmm. So recently, Badger Meter acquired D-Flow technology out of Sweden. So could you be able to give us a little bit more detail as to what that means for Badger Meter, and more importantly, what it means for your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So D-Flow, with that acquisition, that brings on board a lot of expertise in ultrasonic metering technology. They're a knowledge-based company based out of Sweden, and that's what they do. They're experts in ultrasonic metering technology. So we're going to have them, they're going to be looking at ways to incorporate what they've learned about this, with this expertise, incorporating that into the new technology, expanding that ultrasonic metering line, which has been really embraced by the market. That ultrasonic metering is really of interest to utilities. We've found that growing. We've seen competitors join us in the marketplace, and so we know that's a good path, and the utilities are wanting to see that. We're going to be able to incorporate what we learn here into our technology using D-Flow. They become our Badger Meter Innovation Center, and in fact, they have a booth here at the show.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, good stuff. Well, Travis, it's going to be fun to see what those guys do with that acquisition.
No doubt.
Very, very exciting. So, Kristie, this E-Series Plus that you're also demoing at your exhibit, get into that. Tell us what's happening there.
Sure. That is our shutoff valve. Integrated into the standard lay length of our E-Series meters is a flow restriction valve. It can be remotely actuated with our LTE endpoint that we just talked about. Utility can restrict the flow of a meter or water service. What they can do is there are 3 states, so they can do a partial close if they are concerned. They want their their customer, the utility wants their customer to be able to, say, fill a glass of water or wash their face or those kinds of things, but restrict them from, for example, being able to irrigate their lawn. And the primary use, of course, is to encourage prompt payment, although there are some other uses for that shutoff valve, for example, tenants swapping out and that kind of thing. So there are a few other uses to that. So we're demonstrating this technology, the shutoff valve, in our booth. So if people stop by, they'll see that.
Outstanding.
I mean, every time I talk to you, I feel like I learn a whole bunch of other things I wasn't aware of before we sat down. I want to get your opinion on something. Recently, there's been talked about quite a bit at length about this wave of baby boomer operators and engineers that are retiring. And then there's a younger generation stepping up to take their place. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, how it affects the marketplace, and how Badger Meter is able to actually relate to them, talk to them, and help them do their job better and learn the industry.
Yeah, that is a big demographic shift, and the timing is actually pretty good for this to happen, because right now everything about the software is about intuitive design, and that is very helpful for someone who's just coming into the industry, doesn't have decades long of library of information that they can draw in terms of tribal knowledge. So to be able to jump on the software and just very intuitively understand how do I get a handle on what's happening in the system, having things surface like at a glance, having the software do the work for you, suggesting actions to take is extremely helpful. And the whole concept of a managed solution, really, where a utility doesn't have to manage an infrastructure on their own, and very even seasoned operators can make them. That's kind of a daunting thought, is that I might have to put up a proprietary infrastructure and maintain that myself.
Sure.
So with that managed solution, a utility not having to do that, I think the timing is actually pretty good in terms of the technology that's coming on board, the new systems and solutions that are coming on board.
It's an exciting time to be in this industry, right? I mean, if you're not aware of what's going on behind the curtain, the amount of innovation and technology, it's amazing what's happening. And so someone may think, oh, it's just guys in overalls at the waterworks. No, it's a very, very exciting time. So I think fun to watch. So we've talked about this Endpoint. We've talked about this acquisition of D-Flow and the E-Series Plus. I want to hear now a cool story about an installation in the last couple of years that is particularly impactful and a good demonstration of what you guys are all about.
Sure. We just did a case study on a customer who they incorporate kind of a lot of these technologies. I will say something that I think is really neat about this customer too is they do have some of the older technology, and to see that all married together in the same system, so they can leverage the investment that they've already made. But they've got the E-Series meters, they've got the Orion Cellular Endpoint, they're using Beacon, and they are such a cool customer in that they're so sophisticated. This is Salisbury. I need to give them credit, Salisbury Roland. They do a great job. They can do very formal looks. They have their contract operator for a town nearby, so very sophisticated reporting, but man, do they have their eye on the ball with regard to looking out for their customers. So they use a lot of this for to detect leaks, help their customers detect leaks proactively before they get an unexpectedly high bill. They are just such a neat advocate for their customers. It's very cool.
Talk about quickly, this is top of mind. We just interviewed a gentleman from Washington, D.C., and he was talking about the issues with their infrastructure, including talking about some apparatus that were installed by a guy who later became a Civil War general. So it tells you how old some of this infrastructure is. How does Badger Meter deal with older and aging infrastructure?
Well, I think a lot of the solutions that we talk about help in identifying where there are problem areas, like leaks, for example. So, and being able to see, here's my total water consumption, how much am I losing, what's my water loss? It's all about identifying where we are with that infrastructure. And I think you'll see more and more of that. That's going to continue that trend.
Well, being a leader in this market, especially as it relates to water loss, I mean, that is one of the most important topics that we've talked about for the past year or two. Utilities want to know how much money is actually leaking right out of the pipes, and that's essentially what it is. It might as well be cash, dollar bills going right out of their pipes. Being able to be a leader in that is going to get their attention, and it's going to get them engaged quite early on in this process. So we applaud Badger Meter for being at the forefront of that.
Excellent. It's fun.
All right. Well, Kristie, we're about out of time. Before I let you go, should anyone have any questions, how can they find you and learn more about Badger Meter?
Well, they can always visit us at badgermeter.com. or stop by our booth at 2801.
All right. Kristie Anderson, the marketing manager with Badger Meter. Always good to see you. Thanks again for stopping by.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Good to see you. All right, that's all the time we have for now. On behalf of all of us at WaterOnline and Water Talk, thank you for tuning in and listening. Signing off from Philadelphia for now, but don't worry, Water Talk will be right back.
This broadcast of Water Talk has been made possible by WaterOnline, showcasing today's water industry leaders and innovators. To learn more, visit wateronline.com. And we thank you again for listening.